Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Peace Talks. This is a series where we catch up with the artists and bands that are coming to play for us at the Mars Bar in Worcester. And today I've got quite a special guest today, Robert Castelli, because Robert was actually, there he is, the first of these interviews that I ever did. So
I
Robert,
didn't realize that. Wow.
yeah, it was the first one. So
Wow.
I think you were the fifth band that we put on, so it was in March, just the beginning of March 2023, and I came up with the idea of how do we market this? How do we, what can we do to get some more interest? So I thought, let's do a video interview. So we did that, and ever since then, from Rob's first one there. And if this is the first of these that you're watching, you can go and catch up on all of these on our YouTube channel. It's some Music Spoken Here YouTube channel. So, yeah, Rob, I'm really delighted to have you back in for an interview and also back for another gig. So thanks for joining
Well,
us today.
thanks for first, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for your support. But I also really want to say, with venues closing and everything after the pandemic, you and what you're doing are a beacon of hope
Oh, thank you.
for the whole musical community. And congratulations, because you're up 3 years or so now, and you're actually expanding and doing more. And I see the people you have there, the variety you have there. It's really what music should be about. And I do think that with Spotify killing everything
Mm,
um, and streaming, that everything has to go back to grassroots, and then somebody in the local community gets the name, and then they grow out from there. And I
yeah.
think we're slowly going back to that, and you are part of this beginning of that trend, which I hope continues, because um, it's nice to be treated properly, to have proper conditions, and to have an enthusiastic audience. And I'm lucky that I play with great musicians, and I'm playing my music as a drummer, which is kind of unusual. Francesco, I've been playing with 10 years now. Um, I'm really blessed. So thank you for doing what you do.
No problem. It's been a fantastic journey. So, just as by way of introduction to yourself, I definitely recommend if anyone's watching this for the first time, go back and check out the previous interview that we did where we talked about Rob and his background and such and how he got into music and all those kind of things that we normally cover off. But just sort of by way of a brief introduction, you're originally from New York, a drummer, now living in Barcelona. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was born in Ossining, New York, which is famous for Sing Sing Prison. Used to be on my brother's paper route, and the
Okay.
warden's house was right outside my door. I could see it. And then I moved to Vienna, Austria. I didn't expect to stay there. I met my now ex-wife. I was there for 13 years. We had a divorce that was not so great. Things are better now, but I see my kids, but I wouldn't have moved. Anyway, I don't want to get into that, but that's how I ended up in Barcelona. I'm from salt water, and I needed salt water. And I used to speak Spanish in New York. So
There you go. Cool. So, yeah, what was interesting? So, you dropped me an email a couple of days ago, and let me know there's an update to the band. But you also, uh, suggested some things that we could talk about actually, which I think would be great for this channel on kind of the experience of performing live and getting gigs and getting paid and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, let's just riff on that really, and kind of let us know kind of what the circumstances are on this particular
well, Dave, I think
situation.
I'm trying to paraphrase and keep it concise. Music is life, right?
Hmm.
And whether we know it or not, every aspect of life comes out into the music. And if you look at society, everyone's being dumbed down
Mm.
to people that you know in high school. They say something, and you're like, what? You know what I mean? So what happens is that bleeds into every industry. And here we are in the music industry. So the musicians, like, I have I'm not going to name names, but I in 2023 I got a chance to play in Porgy and Bess, which is one of the best clubs
Hmm.
in Europe. It happens to be in Vienna,
Yeah.
and one of this bass player there is like iconic. He was the musical director of a woman who's a singer and then had a TV show. And he said, I don't have time to learn any new music. Don't tell me that after you say you want to do the gig. You know what I mean? So this is so not only is it bleeding into the administrative parts
Yeah.
of getting the gigs, it's the musicians themselves,
Okay.
because um I don't know if you've watched or read any biographies of like Herbie Hancock, Wayne Shorter, where Wayne Shorter talks about being in Art Blakey's band and having to pay his own hotel and sometimes flight.
Okay.
And then I have musicians who live in London, and although I've been playing in London since 2009, almost every year except the pandemic, I've never lived there.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're gonna like take a gig and you know whatever expenses are that you can write off on your taxes. I am not like David Bowie where I'm coming with this big tour machine. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So don't tell me like a day before the gig, give me 50 pounds for gas or whatever. I'm like, what are you crazy, man? I took a flight over here. You know what I mean? So these little things, but what specifically happened to me, which is the third time now with a club.
Okay.
So three clubs. So I do my contact, which is an email. I'm old school. Sometimes I follow up with a phone call. I love talking to
Yeah.
people. I love human connection.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like drum machines. No human connection. Okay. So we iron out everything. So two things happened recently where I've had to change because I was going to go from your gig out west
Hmm.
to do two gigs and a workshop. So two things happen. When I go into a new territory, as it were, I make an investment. I try to not lose money,
Yeah.
but I might not make money. But I get my foot in the door, and then next year things roll, and then here I am 10
Yeah.
years later, and you know what I mean. So I had agreed to do a gig that was entrance only
Hmm.
because I had fixed a fixed paid gig with a fixed workshop.
Right. Yeah.
So two things happen. The gig without the fee, which is they use the word arts center,
Hmm.
so it implies a certain size,
Yeah.
you know. So I had been in contact with them before, and things didn't work out because I would need other gigs to do it, and
Yeah.
if I can't get London guys, I got to get guys over there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
so we confirmed the gig 5 months ago.
Hmm.
I am not so well known out there, but the two other guys are very well known out there.
Yeah.
So, but the point is, if you're going to introduce an artist that hasn't been there, and you have your website, like for example, how far in advance do you put up on your website who's playing when?
I usually keep it a 3 month rolling thing. So I've got things booked in, but obviously things can change. If it's five
Yeah,
months ahead, you don't want
right,
to. Yeah. So I usually keep it 3 months rolling ahead, and then the act is sort of soft promotion up until because I'm doing gigs every 2 weeks. I'll focus on 2 week slot. So once once
right.
we once we got one out of the way, I'll then start on the
So
hard
I,
promotion of the year.
so total. So you would agree that putting up the gig on the site 1 month before is a little bit risky, right?
That's a bit too late. Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, they've had all my promo for 5 months. Then, because first of all, I had to ask the guy, it's not on your site. Why isn't it on your site? Then I see it 1 month before the gig. And then there's press that they didn't even, like, all you would have to do is search my email if you don't remember, if you didn't save it and put it in a file, because that
Hmm.
would be the responsible thing to do, right? And an organized thing to do, right? So um, I see that they didn't even go to my bio and if they didn't use what I sent them, they didn't go to my website, go to my bio and edit something and clip it. They went on the internet and took stuff that was 10 to 15 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
And I am Italian American. You can already hear the tone of my voice, right? It's very hard to be like a Buddhist, and Saint whoever in a situation like this, because this is what I do.
Mm.
So that kind of thing is happening all too often. I'm going to tell you, in London, one of the better clubs. It's not Ronnie Scott's or whatever,
Mm.
but one of the better clubs. Johnny Wickham, who's been playing bass
Yep.
with me for a couple of years now, who's incredible. And really low maintenance. And man, what a groove! He's just great. And he says, "Mate, they haven't posted one post for your gig. They have a social media thing, which they have Instagram, Facebook.
Mm.
And then they tell me, I mean, why don't I just say, fuck you, I'll rent a place myself
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
organize everything myself."
Yeah, yeah.
Because if we're already doing the dance
Yeah.
and you're stepping on my feet like 100 times, or even, it's not even stepped on my feet anymore, it's spitting in my face,
Yeah.
I'm not having that. So I had to actually cancel two things. It also, it cost me some money. Um, not money that I would have made, money that I had to reorganize other things. And,
Yeah.
so it's just like that is happening all too often. And um, I don't know how a lot of people are, they're printing vinyl. So first of all, I don't know if it's worth it to invest in hard product.
Right. Yeah.
But I do want to. What I find is the people over 40 or 50 even, they still buy CDs. Younger people don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was merch. So I used to do 75 to 150 pounds a night in merch.
Yeah.
And if I had a 6-day run and I had my fees and a workshop, it was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to like buy an island or something like that, but it all worked out fine.
Making a living, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's gone. So if one support thing goes in physics or in nature, the something has to come to replace that,
Yeah. Yeah.
or the whole thing goes,
Hmm.
right? So here we are, and that's why people like you and what you're doing and what Tristan Banks is doing at the Verdict,
Yeah. Yeah. Verdi. Yeah.
and Nigel Price doesn't run a club, but he's like a one-man machine for support in the
Yeah. With his grassroots jazz.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all of that is a beacon of hope, because I think like nature is cyclical. I was just reading a John McLaughlin article from 2016 and another one from 2017 where he's talking about retiring, why he doesn't play in the States anymore. It's too expensive. The taxes are too high, blah, 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 blah. So when he started, I always ask club owners, why don't you give an artist 3 nights in a row? See because what will happen is, this is the problem with, the technology. Back in the day, you didn't have a phone. You had to tell your friend, you had to call them on a landline. Hey, there's a really great band on Friday, man. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And then they told their friends, and then a buzz was created, and everybody won. The audience won, the club won, and the musicians won.
Hmm.
Now, everyone, including the clubs, are so squeezed for money. This is the thing. Big money has ruined, look around the world right now. Big money is ruining everything. The
Hmm.
environment, education, healthcare, the economy. If you're not rich, you're buggered,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I went off on a tangent now, but all of this is connected, And so when you guys, yeah, so I was talking about coming back to the grassroots thing. When you have people in a community, with all things, the cream bubbles up to the top, and then
Hmm.
and then it goes from there, and then it becomes bigger. And then if there are people who want to make an investment, and there's investing and there's speculation, and sometimes there's a combination of
Hmm.
two, right? So if you have, in the old days, this was the other thing. McLaughlin's talking about the record companies dying. That was 10 years ago or more now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, like, people, even the people who are really well known, they can ride on their world renownedness
Yeah, yeah.
and get gigs and tour all the time. You might not hear the music on the radio. I don't even know. I just actually listened to internet radio for a station I used to listen to in New York. The station is actually in Newark, but there's no infrastructure for artists to like. I don't know if you're familiar with a drummer named Tommy Igoe.
No, no.
Well, Tommy Igoe's father was Sonny Igoe, and I think Sonny Igoe did the first drumming um, education book, you know.
Okay, right.
Oh, not the first, because George Stone was like 33 or something like that. But you know, so Tommy Igoe's a very well-known drummer. He's written books. He's had house bands in San Francisco and Los Angeles, and he's got this website now, and he says, if your kids are going to go to college to get a music education, tell them not to do it.
Yeah.
And did you know who Don Famularo was?
No, no, that's
He
not.
was a drum ambassador that Yamaha. I ended up having a conversation with him on a plane one time, and he told me how he fell into this thing. But he used to do educational drum clinics where he'd have names come. He's also a drummer. He'd start off, but it was also motivational. He was Mr. Motivation.
Okay.
And go to YouTube and look at Sessions with Dom Famularo because he interviews all the great drummers and a few bass players and guitar players. And he used to end them. So what do you tell young people now if they want to get into the music?
Yeah.
And he was Mr. Motivation. And at the end of the thing, he says, "Where's the hope?" So imagine you went from Mr. Motivation to Where's the Hope in a couple of years. And that's where we are right now. So that, again, anyone listening who has a passion for music, start a grassroots thing, support your local community. The young people, if they're not great, they're going to get better. You know, support them.
Yeah.
You know, live music is for everyone. One thing I learned from having to study other languages from living in different countries. Folk music, when we think of folk music in America, we think of Pete Seeger, Bob Dylan, Woody Guthrie. In German, Volksmusik is music of the folks.
Of course, yeah.
So it's like the community used to have in the square in the really more primitive times, but the community would go out, eat, drink, dance, play music. We weren't taking notes like, wow, that's John Coltrane. You know, it was just about community and celebrating life.
Yeah.
And that whole attitude towards music is gone. And music, science, and mathematics were one discipline back in like Greek times or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And if music was, I don't know what the music education situation is in England, but in America, it's not very encouraging. And speaking of what Tommy Igoe said, during the pandemic, I did a lot of closed Zoom with people in the industry because we thought it's the apocalypse. You know, we didn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
And I talked with people in Finland and Norway and Brazil. And I met this American guy who's a sax player, and he got his doctorate or something in music. And he actually put on the internet, it cost him $160,000.
Right.
So what do you do from there? So do you know the term trust fund baby?
Yeah.
So this is also why I think jazz has no balls and grease anymore. No, those people who started jazz, they suffered.
Yeah.
It came from the blues. You got to suffer if you want to sing the blues, you know? So John McLaughlin also says, where's the sweat and blood on the floor?
Yeah.
What happens is you have these trust fund babies waltzing through life with no struggle. People like Pat Metheny and John Schofield have criticized the current jazz paradigm and jazz education. Because jazz is not academic. So many young musicians think they can play the complicated bebop rhythmic harmonic line for the head.
Right.
That's the diving board for you to get into the music.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you can't create a conversation after that, you are not playing jazz. And another thing, Dave, musicians, a couple of years back, I think it was just after the pandemic reopened, Jamboree
Oh, right. Yeah.
used to have a great Monday night session. And like all jam sessions, it could be like absolute magic or crap or a wank fest or whatever, you know. So I'm on stage. I don't think I was the opening band that night. I think I was just playing in the session. And there are like two guitar players, two keyboard players, horn players, and somebody soloing. And not one guitar player or keyboard player was comping.
Right.
So I actually said, what the hell is wrong with people? And somebody in England said, I don't think they teach that in school. And I thought, do you have ears? Do you listen to the music? And the problem is great comping. It's like breathing in air. You're not conscious. You don't even know it's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But when it's
Yeah.
not there, you know it right away.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you have to, why to teach comping? You are not a fucking jazz musician. You're not a musician.
Right.
Use your ears, man. You know. And these are people who are on stage gigging, making these comments. So
Mm.
either I'm a dinosaur now, you know, or the world is just, I don't know, man. As you could tell, like I'm getting my Italian American temperament up, but it was already frustrating and difficult to be a musician.
Yeah.
And and that's all the more reason why people should support the community, the club, and the musicians. It shouldn't be an ego fest. And um, the problem with any business now, big money has ruined everything. There's a vulture up here in the sky, and no matter what industry it is, they made money selling clothes. They made money selling cars. They did art. They did agriculture. Uh, all of that stuff benefited the community. Big money says, wow, we can make money from that. Whoop, they buy the thing, they pull it up there. And the reason for doing what they did is not making cars, not agriculture, not that. It's just money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it sucked the blood out of everything, the economy, the music scene, uh, actors and actresses, you know, movie business. So, again, this comes back to you. If more people did what you are doing, and I know it's difficult, and this is another thing, somehow we have to, as a society, have to get to pressure our governments to tax the big businesses and have a mandatory educational and arts tax. Because
It,
without that, where are we going to get? Without that, it's trust fund babies. And
yeah.
basically, you're dealing with the people who are the children of the people who own the money up here. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So,
Yeah. I mean, in the UK, we've got I know that there isn't. I've yet to find certainly a jazz club or you know a sort of even if it's just someone who's doing a monthly gig sort of at the local community centre or whatever it might be. I don't know any of those that are running without some form of additional funding,
right.
and so it's the we're in the situation, and I don't know how long this has been the case or whether it was always the case to some extent, but audiences can't cover the cost of a live music gig, you know.
Wait, say that again. All the what?
Audiences, the audience
Right.
themselves,
Yeah.
yeah. If I was to cover the gigs that if I was to get the audience to cover the gigs I put on at the Mars Bar, I'd be charging what 40 quid a ticket, you know.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
one's going to pay that. So
Right.
yeah, and so every you know whether it's art, so in the UK or in England we have Arts Council England, and a lot of the funding from that comes from the National Lottery. And I know recently, I mean, Nigel Price was an example of that. His tour that he just did, or he's on at the moment,
Yeah.
That was he'd applied for national or for the Arts Council funding, and that got dropped at the last minute. And the thing with that is that you don't get to hear until you're almost about to start on a tour. Now what was interesting there is that so there's, I think it was a Music Venue Trust have started another funding thing, and I think they jumped in and rescued that, if I'm correct, if my thinking's correct, or I might be confusing two things, but I know that Arts Council funding here in the UK has been become much more difficult. I've been attending the Jazz Promotion Network conference for the last couple of years, and they have Arts Council England and the Scottish equivalent and the Welsh equivalent there. And it's everyone's sort of frustrated by the amount of effort that you have to put in to get a grant, and then that gets rejected. And I've
Right.
seen examples as well where a grant's been rejected, so it gets resubmitted, and then it gets rejected on completely different grounds the second time round without. So it's there's obviously, I completely agree that there needs to be funding
Yeah.
from somewhere to support it, because otherwise it is gonna, I mean, I'm funding this myself, and at some point I'm going to run out of money. Hopefully it will be years down the line, but it needs, at the moment, certainly it needs an injection of and support from people
So
who've got money. So
yeah,
whether
and
that's the
I don't want to interrupt you, Dave, but I don't know about it in England and Europe, but I think worldwide, when I maybe 25 years ago, the average salary of an executive was 60 times more than the average worker. Now it's 600 times more.
mm,
And the average worker salary has barely kept pace with inflation.
yeah.
So it's not that there isn't any money,
Mm,
it's where the money's going. So if
yeah.
you have the cojones to stand in front of the lion and say, you're going to give me money because this is ridiculous, you know,
Mm,
it's you know, sometimes I look around and I get really, I don't want to, I'm kind of heartbroken at the situation, what's going on in my birth country, the things that I saw happen while I lived there, part of all the reasons why I left. Um, I don't want to be a doomsayer, but we all have to get together and do something about this, or it's not going to get any better. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah. And I
And the
think,
money is there. That's the thing. The money's there.
yeah,
How do we break through that wall just to be able to talk to these people?
yeah.
Because if people with money, if they can smell money, they're going to go there. So if we can present it in a way, that's the problem with the arts, though, or maybe just NGO, but there has to be a way. There has to be a way.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you there on the idea that there is money around, and something that's pissed me off a bit recently is seeing a number of events. So there's a thing in London at 58th Street, and it's kind of hankering to this is the 1930s jazz experience,
Yeah,
you know, and it's a show, so it's a night out. It's a show, but you get, if you're having dinner with that and whatever, it's 200
yeah.
and something quid. Yeah, so that's out of the
Most
realms of,
people's range, right?
yeah, and it's something that people go, oh yeah, I like a bit of jazz. Let's go, and it's an association in their mind with something that's, oh, it's sort of this authentic 1930s experience. So there's that level of it, and people who go along to that, and they go, oh, and it's in the social media influence age. It's like, oh, here's a picture of me at this gig, and I think it's become almost, it's like when you look at like Oasis tickets and things like that, those big stadium gigs.
Yeah,
It's almost become like a bragging trophy. I've got tickets. I'm
right.
I'm, I'm well off enough to afford tickets, and
Well,
I'm going to pay £300 a ticket to go and see a band that was the big
you
in the
know,
90s. only because they were big in the 90s.
You know who Joe's Avenue was, right?
Of course.
Right. So Joe's Avenue was involved. Everyone thinks he owned it, but he didn't own Birdland in Vienna.
Right. Okay.
I did a CD presentation there and I did a couple of gigs there. And then there's a big controversy. Something like 600,000 euros disappeared. Nobody knows where it went. But in Vienna, I noticed as an American, and I'm more conscious of it than ever, the attitude towards money is quite different in America. Everything is about money and
Hmm.
bragging and whatever, and they're much more austere and they can live on less. And so but my point is that Birdland was booking, if you're booking a known name and it's 50 euros, which is not a lot now,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
back then, 15 years ago, or 20 years ago, it was a lot.
Yeah.
So what happened is they'd book local bands and then they'd charge 50 euros for the local band. And I'm
Right.
like, so if they go to the club, do they have money to buy a drink? And
Yeah.
they certainly don't have anything left over for merch, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So this is what I mean, how the big money has corrupted what people accept because basically they back you into a corner forcefully or with just enough conveniences to give you what you want, but you can't get more,
Mm.
and uh, you have to price your stuff accordingly. The problem is they're paying outrageous rents. They have
Of
staff,
course. Yeah.
and those costs are rising. You know, I just had a little bit of an issue with a band with some musicians, and some of them were kind of close friends, and we kind of had a falling out about it. Is that if they want to play like we had an event band,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
is like Michael Jackson but
Yeah. Yeah.
music from the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Hmm.
And I think if you're going to do that, it should be in a hotel, a properly paid event like a wedding or some
Yeah.
big
Yeah. Yeah.
corporate thing, or Las Vegas,
Yeah.
Atlantic City, cruise ship. So I have a picture. There's a picture of me on my website playing the guitar when I was 15 years old. And I was doing 70% of the program that they want to do for no money. Like they were upset
Right.
with me that I didn't want to continue to do this. It's not that I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it under those
Yeah.
conditions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how many jobs have not risen your fee in 25, 30, 40 years?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if the person at the club is getting a salary or the bartender or whatever, that's marginally keeping pace with inflation. The musicians are way down here, so
Yeah.
that has to be more balanced for the whole thing to work.
Yes. Yeah.
And in the current model, because you have to pay that rent, it's just not possible without. So Dave, I was just writing down jazzservices.org. So
All right.
I'm going to tell you, as a foreigner, I got money 3 times from different places over there.
Okay.
So the first time was jazzservices.org, and I think it was Phil Clouds or somebody.
All right. Yeah.
We were having a conversation,
Hello,
back
Phil.
then again, it was on the phone. And he said, Robert, I can't put it in your name. I can give you the money. And it wasn't a lot, but it paid the gas and the hotels for a
Mm.
6-day night, every night, a gig, and in some cases, a workshop during it, like on a Saturday
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
like that. And then because I lived in Austria and was married to an Austrian woman, so it wasn't just that I was an Austrian resident. I think it was also that, I had family. The Austrian Cultural Forum gave me money 2 or 3 times and let me stay at the Austrian Cultural Forum in Knightsbridge. Here's a really quick
Oh,
joke.
cool.
Here's a really quick joke. One time my flight came in, by the time I would have got there, it would have been after the guard went home.
Right.
So they had to leave the key. I said, okay, I'll have somebody pick it up. So I asked my musician friends because I didn't know, like, okay, I know Knightsbridge is rich. I'm American. We have Scarsdale and Park Avenue and, whatever. But I was like, guys, you know anybody in Knightsbridge? They're like, no.
Yeah.
But anyway, they let me stay there for free if they didn't give me money.
Hmm.
But we're on a crusade, Dave. We are on a crusade, and we're going to make this work.
So I think, yeah, I think there are a number of um, there are a number of challenges, and I always want to try and understand stuff. I've always been from a kid, I was pulling calculators apart, and how does this work?
Wow.
And there's got to be, I've got that kind of frame of mind where I won't be told that something won't work. I'll find it out for myself.
Right.
All right, you were right, but at least I had a go, right? Yeah. So certainly in hospitality. So my experience when I started playing in my sort of 17, 18, I'd left school before I started playing an instrument. I played bass, and there was a pub in the sort of next town along that used to do live music 3 or 4 nights a week, and it was free entry, but the bands were getting paid. But they're probably getting paid like good money back then, and it's the same fee that they would get paid today.
Exactly.
Exactly as you're saying, it's like 20, 30 years, and people the money ain't gone up. But that was a successful pub, and they shifted a lot, shifted a lot of beer on those nights, and there was enough money in the business to fund
the band.
Because the business was making money, and that was what the landlord chose to do with it. And I think, I mean, what was interesting when I before I started Music Spoken, or around about the same time I started Music Spoken here, I started working at a pub up the road. Because I got chatting with the guy who owns it, and I said, look, I want to understand kind of what's involved in keeping one of these things going, so I was working behind the bar, but learning as much as I could about the running of places. There's loads of places that are closing just on the basis of things like energy cost, gas and electricity going up and stuff like that, just to open the doors, paying your staff and all those kind of things. So there's that pressure certainly on the businesses, and then there's the pressure on everyone else. If you've got 30 quid a month spare at the end of paying all your bills and everything, you're going to think very carefully about what you're going to spend it on.
Right.
But I think certainly over the last 10 years, it feels to me, I mean, back then I appreciated the fact that it was free, but I also went to paid gigs, and if there'd have been a collection or something like that, I would have chucked some money in. But I think there's increasingly a kind of expectation, especially with the younger generation now, is that music is free. You've got a generation that has never had to pay for music.
No, and that is the crust of the problem. There is a whole maybe 2 generations now that never bought music. And as a traveling musician, like I said, the merchandise was, I wouldn't say half, but a third. I mean, it was it was enough to make the difference to do it or not do it sometimes. You know what I mean? So what I wanted to say earlier when I went off on my tangent was, I have a picture of me playing this repertoire, 15 years old, making 100 or 150 American dollars from like 1977. That's how old I am.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So they're asking me to play this repertoire. And again, I was playing guitar and singing.
Right.
That's my second instrument. I'm a drummer. I mean, I'm a musician. Yeah. I'm a musician who plays the drums. But so I was like, do you realize you're asking a guy my age to play this music? It's not that I don't want to play the music, Because if you're on a cruise ship, you're doing a show, you play the shit out of it, you know?
Yeah.
But if I'm playing some little community thing for no money, and I'm also, we talked in our last interview, I always wanted to be a composer. I got accepted to Berklee College of Music for film scoring,
Right. Okay.
but I couldn't go because in the United States, if you go, you can get grants which you don't have to pay back
Okay.
in your own state.
Right. Okay.
If you go outside your state, you need to get financial aid. And because my father was at the time a retired, almost blind jazz musician, we couldn't, our income was not
Yeah.
enough to qualify for financial aid.
Right. Okay.
So I got accepted to Berklee College of Music. I was on fire. And then a week later, boosh, like I get the news that, and it was like, I don't know, 8,000 a semester in 1980, you know?
Right. Okay.
So, um, the I really think because people don't realize everything is connected. It really, really, really is in nature, in the economy. In the United States, when Eisenhower was president, okay, I'm not that old, but the corporate tax could be as high as 90%.
Hmm.
And the tax wasn't 90% to gouge the company. The tax was to force them to expand the business, build more offices, build another plant, invest in the community, put the money, take that money, say, so if you're at a 90% tax, if you take 40% of that, all of that money would go into the infrastructure in the community.
Right.
And if you didn't reinvest in the, then that's when you paid the 90%.
Right.
So it was like a deterrent
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
to stop happening what's been happening for the last 30 years.
Mm.
So all of that money got sucked to the top. Because like we said, I can't imagine the rent at Ronnie Scott's or Jamboree or Birdland. I cannot
Mm.
imagine the rent, what they just have to cover just to open a door.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so uh the, I don't know. Is a class war coming? I don't know, but we have to do something to force those people to give something back because money, I was in the money business for a while. I was always a musician, but I was always looking for ways not to have to work. So
Yeah.
when I worked in a commission business, I could do a big deal, make like 5 or 10 thousand, and then I don't have to do it. I can go be an artist.
Yeah.
So the money is there. Uh, if you ask people, the question is like, what's the return on investment? So people with money, if we can't get organizations or force the government, I mean, why? I don't understand. The only reason why people with more money don't pay appropriate tax is because they're paying people to keep those laws. Like in the United States, there was a guy named John Perkins. He wrote a great book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman. I recommend it highly.
Okay.
One of the things he talks about is the corporatocracy. Uh, Dick Cheney
Hmm.
was head of Halliburton, a huge, like Siemens, huge company.
Yeah.
And he was the vice president of the United States. So what happens is the government of the United States, back in the days of Harry Truman, Fiorello LaGuardia, they were working class people. They identified with the community.
Yeah.
Somewhere around Reagan, all lawyers and accountants started running everything. So, like, are you familiar with Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist, the American guy?
I'm not. I'm not. I'm afraid.
Okay, he's like a rock star of science,
Hmm.
and he has a really good program called Star Talk. And he says when he's on these, shows like Bill Maher or Jimmy Kimmel or whoever, um, he says when you look at Congress, Where's the agriculturist? Where's the artist? Where's the person who might have suffered from cancer? Okay, I'm sure there are people there. But the point being, if you only have lawyers and accountants, you're going to run it like a lawyer, and you
Yeah.
can't run a country like
Like a
it's
corporate, yeah.
yeah, it's just not possible. So the government of the United States is corporate reps going into government. The company that you used to work for asks you to write a bill that will benefit this company, and guess what? With one of your ex-employees there, you have a whole lot more chance of getting that bill passed.
Yeah.
So they're buying what they're getting. And
Mm.
if we could stop that, even I mean, if Elon Musk can pay $200 million, I mean, and he's doing this to elections all over the world, by the way. He's doing it in China.
Mm.
He tried to do it in England. He's doing it in Germany. But he won't pay 200 million in taxes. You know what I mean? So so the what just happened with Jimmy Kimmel? Did you hear
Mhm.
about? Are you
Yeah.
following that?
Yeah.
They supposedly they're going to put him back on air.
Okay.
So if we can get enough people and enough high profile people to just say it's enough, because Stephen Hawking said within 50 years, and he said this, I don't know how long has he been dead now. He's been dead a while, right?
Yeah.
10 years or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you're familiar with universal basic income?
Oh, yeah. 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 Yeah.
Right. So he said with automation, and this was before AI, this was just with automation. Now it's automation and AI. All these jobs are going to disappear if the people who have the money do not make a conscious decision to give people a universal basic income. Again, Dave, I'm going to segue because do you know how the market started, the food market?
Go on.
There's a book called From Stuffed to Starved by Raj Patel, I think is the journalist
Okay.
name. And it's about the global food industry from growing to garbage.
Right.
And in the Middle Ages, the aristocracy had all the food,
Mm.
and the peasants were dying of starvation and hallucinating from not eating for 3 days. And they're like, well, I'm going to die anyway. So let's storm the castle. So they stormed the castle, and the aristocrats had a meeting and said, shit, we better give them like 10%, 20% of the food and keep them, in place, you know? So Stephen Hawking warned that there would be global revolt and total breakdown of society if they don't start giving that money back to all the places we're talking about.
Mm.
Because it's really happening in front of our eyes, you know? What kind of jobs are out there for young people to get? They say
Yeah.
AI is going to start replacing accountants and administrative people because it was already through manufacturing replacing manual labor. So it's happening in real time right before our eyes. I mean, it might not happen in our generation, but if it doesn't change, if that money isn't reallocated, it's just like if you have a garden and you don't water it, and you don't have to just water it, you have to, what do you say, plow or sow
Mm. Yeah.
it,
Yeah. Yeah.
you have to do all those other things or it dies. And that's the it's a metaphor for society. That's what money is. Money. Joseph Campbell, I don't know if you know who he was. He was a theologian, and he's where George Lucas got all of the philosophy of
Right.
the Force in Star
Right.
Wars from Joseph. And he
Okay.
said, money is congealed energy. So you can go out and say, I'm going to have a great time. I'm going to smoke cigars. I'm going to buy a Rolex. I'm going to drive a Bentley. Or you could invest in something that you might not see come to fruition, but probably you will see it come to fruition. So there's so much money now, it's become destructive and not constructive. And as a society, we have to get that back because where would we be without music? You know, Spotify now, not I'm going to get t-shirts made. You said I could curse, Dave. I'm going to get
Okay.
t-shirts with the Spotify logo, and on the top it's going to say fuck. Because not only now you have to have like 1,000 streams to be considered,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, but now my daughter, uh, I did a gig in Vienna, and I'm going to do it at the same place in November. And my daughter's, I said, come to the show. And she said, it's the first time my girls ever came to a show. And she requested a song, and the song is called Golden Take Vibe by Golden Brown. And
Okay.
it's either a DJ that took parts of Take Five and then had a live soloist over it,
Hmm.
or it's AI, because it's been reported that Spotify on playlists now, they basically take their catalog of artists that they're not paying and cut and paste and create
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
an artificial AI band.
Mm.
So when you have that level of mechanization and whatever, there's no humanity left in
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
And a great story, Incognito, the
Yeah,
band.
yeah, yeah. I saw
You
those
saw
just
them
last
recently,
Wednesday.
right?
Wednesday, yeah, yeah. They played
Okay, did
Birmingham.
you was Kiko playing keyboards? Kiko Alota, Italian guy?
Yeah, yeah. Was he
Yes,
Italian? Yeah, I can't remember his name, but it was Italian. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes,
I'll
Kiko
double check.
Alota.
Yeah,
So Kiko and I became friends. I don't know if he was in Barcelona one time and he saw me play. So he started making comments about me on social media and we connected, but we had never met.
mm,
And then Incognito was playing in Barcelona
right.
and he said, let's meet, man. We never actually met. Let's meet and have a beer. So I went to the hotel with him. He said, I'll put you on the list. And I had a gig that night. At that time, I had a regular once a week gig. So I couldn't really cancel the gig, but I would have loved to see Incognito. But I got to meet Bluey.
Right. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
And
Lovely bloke.
Bluey, okay, so I still have on CD the first two Incognito records. This is the 90s. That music was better than any of the American stuff, and the style came from America. And the Brits were doing it way better with such soul. So I don't know. Bluey had explained to me that either his manager or a record label or someone said, go to America and work with this producer. I'm not going to name his name. He's a
Okay.
very well known bass player who produces pop and jazz and rap and plays on a lot of it. And he went to, and in the 90s, everything, smooth jazz and soul, was programmed drumming and sometimes program bass and keyboards.
Right. Okay.
So this bass player producer said to Bluey, man, you got to do the thing with it. And Bluey said, I don't want a drum machine. I want real. And Bluey said no to working with this huge producer. And he's keeping something going that is so incredibly soulful. And
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
reason it's soulful is it's human. You
Exactly.
know?
Yeah. No, he said at the end of the gig actually on Wednesday that it's there's so much pressure to go out. You're booking a band, and it's like, oh, can you come out as a 5 piece or a 4 piece? And it's like, no,
Yeah.
this is there's
Yeah.
always got to start, and that's why I love all the bands that I've put on at the Mars Bar. You get people who come up and go, oh, I can do it as a trio. It's like, no, I want to hear your music as you want it
Right.
played, and we'll find a way to make it work. Because yeah, I'm it's really funny because I got into computers as when I was like 10 years old, I think. Our headmaster at my school at the time had got a Commodore in the headmaster's office, and there was two or three of us. He said, you can come and have a look at this. And then there was another teacher there at the time, and she was interested in learning how to, because they had some games on it, and most of the kids just wanted to go and play the games. And I wanted to find out, well, how do you make those games? Well, how do you do all that, make all that stuff happen on the screen and that kind of thing? So, and there's another teacher there that was interested. So I got a book and she kind of like and I'd get into school half hour early and sit with her for a half hour, and I'd worked something out the night before, and let's try this, and
Wow.
so I had that fascination, and it stood me in good stead to make a really, a favorable career that managed to support my family and such. But now I don't know. I can't get excited about tech. It feels like there's been a bell curve, right, of usefulness of technology,
Yeah.
and it's and seeing during my career, which has been over the last sort of 30 years, sort of finished 2021. Um, even towards the end of that, I was starting to feel I was no longer interested, no longer excited about it. It
Right.
was
Right.
throughout in my 30s, I was really excited about what I was doing and what I was able to do. Maybe it's just getting old, and
No.
someone who's like 10 years old now looking
No,
at me,
it's like what you said, useful technology and things like there should be a purpose and a seed, the cycle of nature is, supposedly, I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but I've heard and read that all of the energy in the universe doesn't grow, it just recycles itself.
okay,
So people, I don't know what people think when in this McLaughlin thing, he was talking about getting old and dying and going back to the place, the beautiful place we all come from.
hmm
So my point is that that cycle is natural, and when you try to look what's happening with the environment, if you're not nurturing the environment, it's going to bite you in the ass or kill you or poison you. You know what
mm,
I mean? So you need to tend the garden.
yeah, yeah,
It's not just like push a button. Everyone today, they just want to push a button. The people buying music, oh, they push a button.
mm.
DJs, I'm playing a gig on Saturday. No, you're not. You're pushing a button. Shut up. You know what I mean? So we, so that's why again, the grassroots thing, what you're doing, I'm happy to see, and I really wish you luck. And everything I can do, even when I like, if you have a fundraiser or something, if I can even throw you a bone, whatever. I just hope, man, first of all, you're doing a great job. So thanks. And I love what it says in the back, connecting you with new and exceptional music experiences. That is really great
That's
because
what we've been trying to
music
do.
music should be like that.
Mm.
You should be discovering things. This is another thing, this kind of compartmentalization of styles. I don't like purists,
Right?
and there really isn't a thing called purists. And uh, some people have described my music, not when I play in a band and play, and not my playing, but my
Yeah,
music, as fusion.
right.
I'm Italian American. That's a fusion.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, if you want to plant um, Cabernet grapes from California in Chile, they're not going to grow to be what they were in California because the soil's different, the weather's different, everything's different. So
Yeah,
my point is that everything is connected, and when it's not in harmony, you can see the disharmony or the what's the word I'm looking for in music when it's not harmonic. It's like scratching on the chalkboard. So this is what big money and that kind of influence is done. How hard could it be to divert 20% of these
mm.
hundreds of billions? If they lost half, it would be like a mosquito on an elephant, you know? So why isn't it happening? It's
Yeah, yeah,
beyond criminal at this point. It's morally, ethically, every way bad. So
yeah.
you are a
I
beacon of
think,
hope. What you're doing is, I hope there are people with balls and a little bit of money. Because if you don't have the money, you can maybe organize people and get the money,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But if there are people who, like I've had friends in New York, in Vienna, and here in Barcelona that are rich, really rich. And if a friend has a problem, they do like a huge thing, like buy them a car or pay the down payment on their house
Mm.
or whatever, you know, like really big, generous things, because in the end, they don't even notice that it's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
And they do a really positive uh, thing for growth, you know,
Yeah.
like they're planting a seed. It's, and how can music change? Like the other thing about the attitudes towards music is what are you doing as an artist? You know,
Yeah.
like people have said, people like Nina Simone have said, all art, not just music, should reflect the time.
Hmm.
So when I see people playing, say, jazz, and they're wearing suits like it's 1950, and they're playing music like it's 1950, that has its place.
Yeah.
And especially if it's a show, because I
Yeah.
love a show. And a show, you have to kick ass, you know, and you have to do whatever it is. But for art and music, you don't stay in a little box, you
Yeah.
know? So I don't want to. They asked Ben Kingsley why he did Sexy Beast,
Hmm.
because he turned down a really big Hollywood movie. And he said, well, why would I want to do something that's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy when I can do something fresh? I'm an
Yeah.
artist.
Yeah.
And this is where, this is the other thing. It isn't about just the money, it's the whole attitude towards music. What is it? What is jazz? One of the progenitors of jazz, Miles Davis, said jazz is a white man's word. I
Okay.
said that to Tommy Igoe when he said something about styles and jazz. And I said, and you know, I didn't say this to him personally, this is all on social media, which again screws up communication
That
because
is.
people take things out of context and all of a sudden you're arguing with people and like, get a life, man, you know? So Tommy writes back, your self-loathing is very apparent. And I'm like, God, you quote Miles Davis and you get the shit kicked out of you. You know, like I didn't say that. Miles said that. So that's my point. Like, um, the musicians out there have the have the balls to fail big, because it's better to regret doing something than to regret something you never did
Mm.
because you didn't do it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the quickest road to learning. This
Yeah.
is the
Of
difference
course.
between the American system. Like in Austria, it's a really small country, and if you're born in Austria, it's great. The social system is great. Everything is really good, but it's very like this, you know. And uh, they teach you like to pass a test, and if you get that certificate or degree, and you have no experience at all, you're a god. But they make you know the content of what you're studying.
Mm.
The American system is we teach you how to pass the test,
Mm.
and then we throw you in the deep end of the pool and you swim or you drown. And that's life,
Mm.
right? So the quickest way to learn is to try to do something different and say, well, that worked, but that didn't. This
Yeah.
last time we talked about how I compose or how people compose. And I compose all different ways.
Mm.
Sometimes a melody comes, you know, but sometimes it's just like I put the drum machine on and I use sequencing only for composition. I don't use it. I'm a drummer.
Mm.
I'm certainly not going to use a drum machine. But I keep it going and I do a vamp or I do, and then I listen to it back. And this is how I got this that I read many years ago that Zawinul used to record himself improvising and then say, oh, I like this, I like that, you know? So that's the best way for an artist to grow
Yeah.
is to do things they don't do. There's a saying in practicing music, if you sound good when you're practicing, you're not learning anything and you're not
Right.
doing anything new, right? And that's the thing about the garden and nature. That people want purity and they want perfection. What's perfect? Nature's perfect. And
Mm.
nature, not every harvest is a big harvest. And that's just the way it is. And you get back down and you do it again, you
Yeah.
know? So, um, I don't know. I'm going all over the place, Dave, you know.
Ah, it's good. Good to.
But but again, I also want to tell, and I'm going to really push not just my interview, but your whole thing just so other people who might have the inclination to do what you do might take the chance to do it. Because if we just have trust fund babies running everything, when I was in the money business, I used to go to a place called the Penn Club. And
Mhm.
the Penn Club is all graduates of Yale, Harvard, and whatever. And the second I walked in the door, they all looked and said, "Oh, geez," because they could tell right away I
Yeah,
wasn't from that. So my point is that money, real money, old money, is a club that you're born into, marry into, or don't get into.
yeah.
And if we have everything being run by these people, forgiving me for saying it that way, these people, because your experience shapes your perception. So there are people, young people, who have a perception that's totally unrealistic of what the reality
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
So, so people like you doing the grassroots thing, people like Tristan having a career and running a club,
Mm,
same thing with, I mean, Nigel Price doesn't run a club, but he practically, what he does can be considered running a club
yeah,
because
yeah.
he's running all over the place. So uh, we need more of that.
Mm.
So that's why I'm going to tell everyone, check out Music Spoken here, check out Dave Fuller, check out the Mars Bar, observe what they're doing, how they're doing it. And because again, congratulations that you've been going now a couple of years. You're really a beacon of hope, man. I mean it with all my heart.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed doing it as well. And I think whenever anyone, a few people sort of come along and say we need more people like you to sort of get things started. And to some extent, it would be great to have things starting. But yeah, the most important people is the people that are watching this and come out to gigs. We
Right.
we all need more people to come out and start listening. And have
But
that.
how are those people going to come if they're not making money?
Yeah,
That's the problem. See, that's how everything is connected. So I
yeah,
didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
exactly. Yeah, no. So yeah, there's. We certainly appreciate everyone who comes through the door, and pretty much everything that I put on is original music. It's bands that you've not heard of, and that kind
I
of.
also like that because it's
It's
good for the artistic for art in general. So not only are you helping the community, the local community, and the musicians, you're helping the process of art. By
it's
doing
yeah,
it.
it's about the music, and
Yeah,
it comes from that. I enjoy it. I want to see it live. Let's put it on, and yeah. So yeah, keep going to gigs, keep
yeah,
going to gigs. And keep,
yes,
it's that
folks, please.
it's that personal space, isn't it? And that personal experience
Yeah.
we're losing. So talking of gigs, let's just chat a bit about what you'll be the band you're bringing up, and the music you'll be playing. So it's
Well,
on Thursday,
uh,
the 9th of October. You're coming up, yeah.
yeah. So as it's my as I'm sort of the leader, we'll be playing, I guess, like 60% of my original music. I have some new music, and hopefully we will play it because, as I said, some people are like, I don't have time to learn new music or whatever. So, but I have some new tunes. But anyway, we're doing original music of mine and Francesco's. It's Francesco Acosta, Anita. Uh,
Wazinska.
yeah, I don't know. She was referred because she plays a lot with Francesco and Marco because of scheduling, couldn't do the gig. Johnny Wickham, I'm a drummer, and when I play with a great bass player, I used to make jokes about Davide Montevani. We used to
Oh,
do
right, yeah, yeah.
whenever I played with them guys, we did 6 nights in a row usually.
Mm.
And I used to say that bass players and drummers should be married. And I don't mean that in a, obvious marital sense. I mean like that connected, you
Yeah.
know? And I said, Davide and I, after 3 days, we're on grandchildren. you know? So Johnny is that kind of bass player, and Johnny is like half my age.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I told him last time we played, I was there in June, I think it was, and at Oliver's. I love
Oliver's,
Oliver's,
yeah, it's a great
and
place.
that's
Yeah,
another beacon.
yeah, yeah.
Um, uh, and I said, Johnny, oh no, we were at the new place, the Cowshed, which is another beacon of hope. The
That's
cowshed.
Marco's running that, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the guy Laurie, it's his plays. Marco's musical director,
Right.
but
Okay. Yeah.
Laurie's like running the plays, and the community's really stepping up. I said, Johnny, man, I could be your father, and he laughed. And then I told him how old I am, and he goes, "What?" But anyway, he is such an incredible bass player. Like Francesco has this song that's a 16th note funk.
Mhm.
So when you're playing 16th notes, if you're going to play a lot of notes, you can't get in each other's way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So Johnny's really listening, and he's like so in the groove, but the space is all in the right place, and the
Right.
notes are all in the right place. And after that gig, I said, "Man, I just want tonight. You sound really good." He said, "Man, I wanted to tell you the same thing because we had just." So I'm really excited to play with these guys
Yeah.
again. This is my band over there, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Johnny
And
was up with. He came up in. I'm just having a look at my. Do you know Steve Taylor, the drummer? He's in.
I know who he is, but I
Yeah.
don't
So
know
Steve
who.
is
Yeah,
in Steve Taylor's Fusion Few band.
yeah,
He came up with them. Yeah. So he's been back since your last gig. But yeah, looking forward to hearing him play again. Yeah.
yeah. So we're playing a few like swing type of tunes, but a modern like Joe Lovano tune. And we're playing like funk, and my stuff it has some ethnic,
Hmm.
vibes to it. So, and people like that. And, I mean, I like that. And everyone loves rhythm, you know.
Indeed.
If the band is cool rhythmically, everyone's having a good time.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to being up with such an appreciative audience and playing with these great players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, really looking forward to that in just a couple of weeks' time now. And thanks for spending so much time with us today. It's great to.
It's my pleasure, Dave. And again, you're a beacon of hope. Thanks for doing what you do. Anyone listening, if anyone's near Worcester, how do you pronounce? I'm sorry,
Worcester.
Worcester.
Worcester. Just Worcester.
Worcester. I say Worcester. Okay, Worcester. The Mars Bar Music Spoken here. It's everything that you say there. New and exceptional musical experience, not just music,
Yeah.
musical experience.
There you go.
Grassroots, transfer of energy from player to audience.
Yes.
That's what it's about.
Indeed. Great stuff. Well, thanks for talking with us, and look forward to seeing you on Thursday, the 9th of October, at the Mars Bar.
Me too, and we shall tip a few.
We shall indeed.